This is the global aviation system in the summer of 2026. Across every continent, thousands of commercial jetliners sit dormant on baking tarmac. The sheer scale of this shutdown is difficult to overstate. Over 150,000 international flights have been scrubbed from the boards, removing 9.3 million seats from the summer season. Lufthansa alone has pulled 20,000 flights and shuttered its regional feeder operation. But the most extreme casualty is Spirit Airlines, which has entered a total wind-down, the first major U.S. carrier to collapse in a quarter-century. The crisis began when the Strait of Hormuz closed, instantly blocking 10 million barrels of daily seaborne crude. Airlines use hedging to lock in fuel costs, but the 2026 shock outpaced every hedge, shattering the $4.50 per gallon threshold in weeks. For the millions of passengers stranded at gates around the world, these cancellations are the first measurable shockwaves of an industry in total economic freefall. While crude oil supply is the headline, the aviation industry's actual survival depends on the refining infrastructure that processes that oil into fuel. The International Energy Agency officially characterized this disruption as the largest in the history of the oil market. The critical bottleneck is distillates, the refined products like jet fuel and diesel. Refineries in Asia and the Middle East have been forced to cut 6 million barrels of daily processing capacity. Look at the refining flow. Even when crude is available, the damaged infrastructure acts as a physical choke point, narrowing the output of jet fuel to a fraction of what the global flight schedule requires. Because refining throughput has stalled, jet fuel prices have climbed 80% higher than pre-war baselines, leaving standard crude oil prices far behind. Airlines are not just facing an oil shortage, they have been deprived of the specific chemical distillate required to stay in the air. To survive this, airline boards have had to prioritize the cold math of the profit and loss statement over their actual flight schedules. In a normal year, jet fuel accounts for roughly 1/3 of an airline's total operating costs. When that cost doubles, the business model breaks. The expanding fuel expense consumes the budget, pushing profit margins deep into negative territory. Marginal flights, shorter, point-to-point routes with thin margins, instantly begin bleeding cash. At $4.50 a gallon, it becomes cheaper to ground the plane than to fly it. Carriers respond by retiring expensive assets, like Lufthansa's aging widebodies. This is a deliberate economic lever. By sharply reducing seat supply while passenger demand stays high, the industry drives the price intersection up. The result of this maneuver is a rapid reset in ticket pricing. Average transatlantic fares have climbed 20%, with standard economy seats now exceeding $2,100 round trip. In this environment, a cancellation is rarely an accident. It is a calculated financial tool used to spike fares and keep the carrier from insolvency. For investors, the crisis has triggered a dispersion trade, where the market begins to reward resilient business models while punishing the fragile. This matrix clarifies the divide. Delta owns its own refinery, which acts as a structural shield for its margins. American Airlines, by contrast, faces a $4 billion fuel headwind on a balance sheet already strained by $34 billion in debt. The model that relies on thin margins and cheap fuel has reached its limit. Spirit Airlines bankruptcy serves as a warning that the ultra-low-cost era cannot survive these energy prices. These permanent price increases are beginning to rewrite the map of global travel. We are seeing a massive reallocation of demand. Travelers are moving away from long-haul Mediterranean or Caribbean resorts, trading down to regional destinations they can reach by car or shorter, cheaper flights. The era of democratized, ultra-cheap global flight was an illusion sustained by stable Middle Eastern crude. Now that the stability is gone, the cost of crossing the world has reset